What's up, guys? I'm Mike Thomas, and today I'm bringing you part 1 of a 2-part series highlighting the top 20 games PlayStation has ever made. That's not bad. This video was inspired by an article written by our very own Alex of Link Cable Gaming. So if you want to just spoil part 2 and go ahead and read it, or you just prefer reading over my voice, I'll go ahead and link that in the description below. Alright, what I want you to do is sit back, close your eyes, and pretend that Alex is sitting next to you reading this story. Only, it's me. I'm going to be playing Alex in this one. So, with that said, let's blow your mind. Alright guys, kicking things off is going to be number 20 on our list, and that's PaRappa The Rapper. Now, I really have to say this is one of the weirdest games. I remember when it came out when I was younger, and it really was just a very strange looking game, but it ended up being pretty good. So if you haven't played it or you haven't seen it, well, here's your chance. PaRappa The Rapper has you grooving and rhyming to some pretty slick beats, and in many ways, it served a light to the groundwork for the massive success of rhythm games to come on these next generations of our consoles right now. It's a true gem. Like, the game was recently updated with fresh new visuals for the PlayStation 4, and it still manages to keep its cool all these years later. So if you're a fan of hip-hop or just like to tap your toes to a nice beat, then yeah, definitely check this one out. Coming in at number 19 is Tekken 3. Fighting games have almost always been a major factor in our industry, but for a long time, they were really set to the second dimension only. But with the arrival of more powerful hardware, fighters were finally able to enter that 3D arena, and while Tekken 3 definitely wasn't the first game to do this, at its time, it really was the best, featuring silky smooth controls, easy to learn mechanics, and a deep roster. Tekken 3 quickly became a fan favorite on the PlayStation and a staple of multiplayer matches with a bunch of your friends. Coming in at 18 is Tomb Raider number 2. The original Tomb Raider, it was a fantastic and landmark game of its own right, but going back to play it now can be a little cumbersome. For its sequel though, core design with the extra mile delivered a game that surpassed the original, and honestly, almost every way conceivable, and helped establish Lara Croft as a bona fide gaming heroine. And I mean, it's a ton of fun of a game if you've ever done it. I know that it's definitely aged very well, even, you know, getting past the graphics, but I mean, it's an old timeless, so guys, you know, get over yourself, you know? But in many ways, this was a high point for the series, and one really that wouldn't be matched until the release of the most recent Tomb Raider titles. Coming in at 17, we got Vagrant Story. The first game from Square on this list, but it's definitely not going to be the last. Vagrant Story was our first journey to the land of Ivalice, and I'm sure everybody has their own way to say that, and it's probably completely wrong how I just said it, but I like it that way, and we'll go from there, right? It's definitely one of the best action RPGs of its time. It's got a deep story filled with intriguing characters, it's got plot twists, fantastic visuals, and a combat system that was just a blast to play. This game often is usually one of the ones that fans first think of whenever there's rumors of Square Enix revisiting a classic property, and I, for one, well, Alex for one, really hope that we do get an updated version one of these days. Coming in at 16, we got Rayman 2: The Great Escape. I'm pretty sure the Rayman series has never had a misstep when it comes to its own platformers. I mean, the spin-offs are a little shaky, but yeah, that's its own thing. That's another video. And it's true for both this 2D and 3D outings. They really just don't have missteps. And while the most recent Rayman titles have been world-class, I still believe Rayman 2: The Great Escape is the best game in the entire series. It feels like a perfect middle ground between Super Mario 64 and like a Banjo-Kazooie, while infusing a ton of Rayman charm. It gave the game a feel all of its own and made it a fan favorite, especially on the PlayStation, a system that wasn't flushed with platformers like all of its rivals. Coming in at 15, we got Syphon Filter. I love this game. Everything about Syphon Filter is something that I love about a good espionage story. It has a solid story filled with real-world intrigue. The gameplay has many realistic elements mixed in with enough insane twists to stay well within a realm of fiction, and most importantly, you feel like a badass playing it. And that's pretty cool, you know? That's probably the best part. While I never had a PlayStation growing up, I would head over to a lot of my friends' homes and play almost every weekend as a kid just to play this game. There's other games too, but you know, this one was pretty cool. In a previous article, we actually ended up naming Syphon Filter the best franchise that Sony had forgotten. Well, if I keep mentioning it enough, maybe someone's gonna pick it up, you know, someone with a little bit of power over there. We'll give it a shot. Alex, you know, we'll do our best for you, bud. How does that sound? Number 14, Crash Bandicoot Warped. Nintendo, they got Mario, Sega has Sonic, Sony's got Crash. These mascots were one of the surprisingly few areas where the three main competitors in the 5th generation of gaming had any overlap, and while the schoolyard debates were intense as to which character was the best, there's no denying that each had good games released around this time. Well, Sonic, no. But, you know, they had their day. And while he was the newest guy on the block, Crash managed to put quite a few good games out on the PlayStation in a very short amount of time, most of which were great, and the greatest of these greats would be his 3rd platformer, Crash Bandicoot Warped. A high-energy, challenging platformer that once again showed why the PlayStation was the console of choice for gamers who had grown up. For 13, we got Final Fantasy Tactics. It could be argued, and it definitely is all the time, that the PlayStation era was the pinnacle of the Final Fantasy franchise. The series had been pulled from its niche standing and into the mainstream thanks to the blockbuster Final Fantasy VII. Man, I never remember these Roman numerals. I think that's 7. And fans of the series couldn't wait to see what was next. While we got more mainline RPGs in the series, this tactical spin-off was just as worthy of recognition. With gameplay that rewards patience and a keen eye over just building up better stats, this was the game that made a generation of players into armchair tacticians and showed the world that the Final Fantasy name could be so much more than just a bunch of Roman numerals. See, like I said, no one knows. It's like the Super Bowl. Are they on like 100 or like 17? I don't even know. It's not 17, I do know that. And I know it's not 100 either. Coming in at number 12, we got Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver. One genre that seems to seemingly pass the PlayStation by was the 3D action adventure, and maybe it was due to the runaway success of Ocarina of Time on the Nintendo 64 or Majora's Mask, because that's the best game ever. But for whatever reason, the PlayStation just didn't get that many high-quality games in that style. Well, maybe it also didn't need them, since Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver was just so good on its own. Featuring an extremely dark and gothic setting, this game was unlike most games available at the time that usually fell into sci-fi or fantasy camps and generated buzz based on that alone. But beyond that, the game was also a blast to play, and the shifting realms idea was innovative and really unique. And coming in at number 11, and we're going to wrap up part 1 with this video, is Final Fantasy IX. Yeah, it's IX, but I do know that that one is 9, so good for me. So Final Fantasy IX was another smash hit for Square and showed that the PlayStation hardware, well now, you know, many years old, had some tricks left up its sleeve, and the game delivered some of the best visuals and sound design found on this system. But beyond that, the game was also seen as a refreshing return to the roots of the series, and the more complex systems of 7 and 8, I think that's the Roman numerals there. Again, I believe it is 7 and 8. And in a lot of ways, played off nostalgia for a simpler time of RPGs. While Final Fantasy IX is definitely worthy of being called one of the best games ever made, it also only lands at number 11 on the list. Once again, it's going to show how great the PlayStation's lineup of games were. Alright guys, there you got it. Like I said, this is part 1 of a 2-part series, so definitely come check back in on our next video where we're going to wrap this up and give you 10 through 1, and I'm sure you guys are very, very interested and intrigued to find out what that is. But you're going to have to wait. Alright guys, before I wrap up this, make sure to check both myself out on Twitch as well as Link Cable Gaming and the platform itself. I'm going to put the links in our description below, but on Link Cable Gaming's Twitch, they're going to do a lot of podcast, gaming reviews, event coverage, as well as some gaming, where I just do purely gaming. And if you guys mention this video on my stream, maybe I'll give you a shout out or 2. I don't know, it's probably pretty cheap right now and no one cares about that, but you know, it's all I can give you right now. Anyways guys, I'm going to wrap it up right here, so I will see you at the next video.